Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, one of the biggest failures of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. And of course, since Endgame in phases 4 and 5, there have been a plethora of these things. Now, this movie was reported to come in with a roughly $200 million budget, but as we told you some time ago, right about the time this movie came out, as a matter of fact, over a year ago, that budget was absolutely unequivocally blown, and now we have the actual evidence behind it, as our friend from Forbes magazine, Caroline Reed, has reported with the updated UK financial returns. Yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and the numbers aren't all in yet, are at this point somewhere north of $300 million. What a massive failure for Marvel. We're going to give you the details right now. Renegade Online. So our friend Caroline Reed over at Forbes magazine has been very busy of late. I do want to talk about the whole Star Wars thing. I mean, I've talked about it to death. Caroline basically confirming this past week everything that we've talked about. She and I have been in communication over the last year or so. So I'm glad she finally got the article out. I'm kind of waiting for her to get wound down here in the next week or so, because I want to have the conversation about the Star Wars article with Caroline as for something for the people out there in the audience. So stay tuned for that. But she released this Friday, and as we know, Caroline tracks all of these United Kingdom FPCs and FTCs, film production companies and television production companies that file in the UK in order to get a rather lucrative tax benefit. A film tax credit. So Ant-Man and the Wasp, as of December 31st, 2022, which was the last filing period, had racked up to that point $330 million in costs of production.
Why?
This does not include marketing.
Why?
Well, as you remember, because they went back and reshot so much, and this was 45
the whole
days.
movie?
Tom, Bill Murray was CGI. It was a total model. It wasn't him at all.
This was 45 days roughly before the movie released.
God.
Tom Pro, what is Disney's reputation for even within 45 days of a movie coming out?
Reshooting a bunch of the movie.
They're still in post-production, so there's probably more costs that we will not see for about another 8 to 12 months on the next
This might not even
report.
So what you're saying is this might not even include the reshoots.
And it doesn't include marketing.
It would
Obviously.
not include anything done to this film production-wise between January 1st of 2023 and February 17th of 2023 when the movie released. Roughly.
This is
45
terrible
days.
news, Valiant.
How much?
This
did
is
it
terrible
make?
news. Oh,
It didn't make any money.
No, I didn't make anything.
Oh,
Valiant, this is terrible
Right.
news
Like
because
300, I think, at the box office it was, like something like that. I think
this is terrible
464.
news because we've been saying that Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny or The Marvels was the biggest flop in the history of cinema.
I think
And
The
now you
Marvels
bring
will
me
still hold
this.
I think
This
The Marvels-
might now be the biggest.
No, I think it's still the Marvels, but I mean, I want to bring a couple of
What about
interesting
cost to
points here.
loss ratio? Indy might be the winner.
Well, I
if
think
not
it's still
Flash,
the Marvels.
one of the two. Between those
It's-
two, I mean,
I think it's still okay. So the Flash may be up there, but we don't get the
because that
reports on
costs
the Flash.
somewhere between 500 and 550 million, from what I
Is
heard.
this
Yeah, I
not-
don't know for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
Is this not incredible, guys? We're talking about four films that are in the top 5 biggest flops of all time that happened in a single year.
yeah,
That-
not Disney.
You want to
Well,
see what's going to
apart
happen to the
from
gaming
Flash.
industry with what they're doing?
apart from Flash,
That's what's coming to gaming.
Yes, thank you. That's where I was going with this. One of PIM Productions 3, and PIM Productions is the name of the corporate entity that housed the production of Ant-Man and the Wasp, of course, named after Hank Pym. PIM Productions 3 biggest expenses was the roughly $21 million, or just shy of 17 million British pounds sterling, spent on production staff, which peaked at 226 people, which is a lot even for this, without even including the freelancers or the agency workers who represent the majority of the crew. So she kind of goes into this, but yeah, what you're looking at here is right here, Disney's net spending. Oh, there it is. Okay, total reimbursement of about 40 million British pounds or 50 million US dollars. Okay, so when we do the FX exchange, foreign currency exchange adjustment, we're looking at about $50 million. So $330 million. You get up to 25% of eligible expenses back. They got back $50 million. And we'll remind folks, eligible expenses where you can get the film tax credit of up to 50 or up to 25%, pardon me, are below the line, right? You don't get a film tax credit for paying Paul Rudd or Evangeline Lilly. You don't get a film tax credit for whatever you pay the director, the head writer, or the main writers. You don't get film tax credits on what you pay the producers, the executive producers, their fees, okay? No film tax credit for that. Of course, anything that wasn't done inside the UK itself would also not be eligible for a UK film tax credit. So they got back about $50 million on $330 million so far, putting the net spend, as Caroline points out, at $276 million. So the question then becomes, what is the actual real loss total that we're looking at now, which could well continue to climb, as we said, because...
Well, are we going to include marketing, though? And
sure.
To explain to the audience, most of the audience knows, but the reason marketing is so hard to figure out is because it's not filed in the UK.
Well, no, the only thing by law in the UK, and really most of all these production entities do, even when they file them for places like Georgia, where they get film tax credits, good film tax credits in Georgia. That's probably, I think, where they're shooting. Well, they used to shoot a lot of Spider-Man, and they did a lot of Endgame and Infinity War there. But it's strictly production only. You do not include marketing expenses in these. It's specific to that. But if we look at the tally here, $463 million globally for Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, to remind folks out there, because we haven't really done a breakdown like this in a little while, domestic box office of $214.5 million. They're probably getting somewhere roughly around 55% of that back, okay? So little over $100 million is what goes back to Disney from the theaters out of that. When we look at the international box office, $249 million. And I want everybody to look here. See, this is the lies when you look at places like Screen Rant that don't know what they're doing. Sorry to say, $200 million production budget, which, of course, that's just the budget. That's not what they spent. What they spent so far was $330 million that we know of, not 200. But I want everybody to look at the international side. China. Remember, this was the first movie to open back up in China. After
it's like when I go to the grocery store, I plan on spending $25.
Right.
In actuality, I end up spending more like $75 because of
you candy aisle.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
But that's basically what we're saying here. It's like, yeah, you go into this film with the intention of only spending X.
Yep.
But what they're really spending is XX. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No,
I just
that's
want to explain that to some people who may be confused.
No, that's fine. $250 million was the total international, but of that, $39 million was China. Let's throw China out for a second. We'll have to get to that in a minute. $210 million ex-China international, to which on average they get back around 43%. Okay, so
in China?
No, internationally ex-China.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. With you.
Yeah, $210 million, around 43% of that. So just between domestic and international, China, they're going to get back around 25% of that $39 million. So of the $39 million box office in China, Disney gets back around $10 million of that, and the commies keep the rest. That's how it works. And they keep 75%. So you're looking at a total haul of somewhere just a little over $200 million. So even with their film tax credit, realistically on this movie, they're still at least, as of right now, $50 million in the hole on production from the box office. That would not include the at least additional $100 million, if not $125 or more, that Disney would have spent to market this film into theaters. So they're in the hole right now, somewhere around 150 to 175 million, I think, reasonable assumption at this point. So, yay! No money from Disney Plus. Again, we're not moving.
Yeah, no, because they just sold it to themselves, basically.
Right. Yeah. It's like, oh, look, Disney Plus has $20. I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it over here in the movie budget or in the movie income. Disney, it came out of one Disney pocket and went to the other Disney pocket.
Like
There's
when your grandma
there.
buys all your cookies when you're selling cookies in Cub Scouts or in Girl Scouts or whatever. Yeah. It's really stupid.
Right.
So in 2019, The Walt Disney Company made over $11 billion in box office revenue. And last year, the Walt Disney Company made barely over $4 billion in box office revenue. So I think we can all see how this is going. And I think we can see where this is going if they don't change the direction. They don't seem to be changing the direction because this year could be even worse. And next year, no matter what Bob Iger wants, they're not sending their heavy hitters when you've got Thunderbolts, Elio, and whatever else they have. I mean, you just look at it and you go, there's no way. There's no way.
They got Emilio back?
Sometime
Elio.
next
Never
year.
mind.
Not Estevez.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.